running the Don Wee's Necrozma, taking advantage of Tapu Lele. Stack Attack, obviously, a really strong Trick Room option. I think Kartana is definitely an interesting Pokemon on Leonardo's end there, being able to potentially Sacred Sword the Stack Attack for a big knockout immediately, and that's one of the ways to really deny Trick Room from going up. So Stack Attack obviously used often to try to counter the Xerneas that we see on Leonardo's end.
Yeah, and we saw Stack Attack a little bit earlier, coming from Aaron Trailer's team. It did a lot of work. It has its work cut out for itself. Obviously, Xerneas is extremely weak to Stack Attack.
Yep.
Stack Attack does enjoy firing off Gyro Balls immediately into those Xerneas and possibly even getting one-hit KOs. So, Stack Attack, a clear favorite choice for Nils here, just to be able to deal with that Xerneas, but you do have to watch out for that Groudon on the other side. And of course, as you mentioned, the Kartana.
Yeah, so a lot of threats coming up from both sides. Obviously, a lot of what will dictate this matchup is kind of who has the speed control, how do the Groudon speeds match up against each other, what are the items on a lot of key Pokemon. And so it's a strong lead here, I think. One that has a lot of options right from the get-go, especially if that Tapu Fini is carrying something like Icy Wind.
Yep, Necrozma and Stack Attack leads for Nils. Over on Leo's side, it is going to be Tapu Fini and Groudon.
So definitely some interesting stuff going on right away. Obviously, the Stack Attack is immensely threatening with Precipice Blades immediately. Tapu Fini also not in the worst position, but it can't really do too much, especially, you know, with something like Groudon, typically you'll run something just like Icy Wind as the attack, maybe in Nature's Madness, but really use more as a passive Pokemon. Obviously, Nils, his team, does have the opportunity to set up something like a Trick Room, but that will be kind of difficult to do in front of a Groudon. One of the first questions I have to wonder is the Groudon like a special variant with Earth Power, or is it the Precipice Blades variant? And then on Nils' end, what item is that Stack Attack carrying? Does it have something like a Shuka Berry to take an attack? Either way, doesn't really want to stay in front of this Groudon.
Based off of what I know about the format, this Groudon seems to be a lot bulkier than that variant of Groudon that tends to just invest in special attack and speed to try to pick out some quick knockouts. So maybe possibly indicating that this Groudon is more of a bulky Precipice Blade Sword Stance variant here.
Yep.
As Necrozma is going to Ultra Burst, going to go ahead and take the field of its Ultra form here, as Stack Attack is going to go for a Wide Guard, going to try to prevent a possible Precipice Blades and Icy Wind from the Tapu Fini, as Necrozma now goes for the Earth Power, hits in that Groudon slot, does some good damage right there, super effective damage, as Tapu Fini uses Nature's Madness, hits in that Stack Attack at 50% of its hit points, taken away immediately, as Groudon now reveals that it is going to be the Precipice Blades variant, so that is going to hit into that Wide Guard.
Yeah, so nice play really from both ends, but I think Nils probably getting the slightly a better advantage there, especially seeing how much Earth Power does from that Necrozma. Not a surprise to see that attack, but confirms that, of course, it is carrying it. Nice Wide Guard play there, really, to avoid a Precipice Blades. Also confirming that Leonardo's Groudon is a physical variant as opposed to kind of the special Earth Power ones that we've seen running around. So, obviously, Groudon is immensely threatened this next turn. Stack Attack, a lot of times often likes to go for Trick Room, but in this position doesn't really need to. I mean, Nils can kind of play safely, go for either a Photon Geyser if he thinks it's going to do enough damage, or an Earth Power into Groudon, and maybe just launch a Gyro Ball into Tapu Fini. Yep,
and Stack Attack on Nils' side retreats as Tapu Lele hits the field here, changing the terrain from that misty terrain into that psychic terrain, preventing any priority moves from hitting grounded Pokemon, as well as boosting Tapu Lele's own psychic type attacks. And here comes a Z move from Nils' side. It's going to be the light that burns the sky.
Yeah, I'd imagine this is going into Tapu Fini to just get a one-hit KO. Nils looks pretty content about that. Either way, it's going to be a big knockout here. Nice play. That's one of the really scary things about going up against the Ultra Necrozma. After an Ultra Burst, it has such a strong move the following turn. Especially on their Psychic terrain, it really just kind of pretty much nukes anything in this format that doesn't resist it. So there it is, the light burn that burns the sky. Let's see who it targets.
And that's going to be most likely a KO on any field. I mean, smart switch right there from Nils to bring in that Psychic terrain to give that a boost as well. And Tapu Fini is going to get burnt up right here, taking some huge damage. And that is the...
Oh, it hangs on!
Oh,
wow.
Hangs on with just 5 hit points and heals back a little bit with a Citrus Berry there. right?
Yeah, Citrus Berry. So Citrus Berry looks like has really been picking up in popularity. We saw it on Gavin's team just now as well. And, oh, that's an absolutely huge survival. That must be like max HP, max special defense Tapu Fini, and maybe a low roll from the Necrozma.
Yeah, and the speeds on Tapu Lele and Necrozma get dropped because of the Icy Wind. And here comes a Fire Punch, hits into that Tapu Lele and gets the KO.
That's such a big survival because if you get that knockout, Nils has full Psychic Terrain control for the remainder of the game, meaning that you can just kind of spam Photai Geyser and, you know, obviously like Psychic or Psyshock from the Tapu Lele. But Tapu Fini being able to survive there really, really clutch. And Groudon being able to get a knockout there is absolutely huge as well. Now we're in a kind of similar position from the last turn. This time around, Tapu Fini's weakened even a little bit more. Of course, the Icy Wind did come out and hit the Necrozma. So one of the questions I have right now is Groudon faster than a -1 speed Necrozma, depending on how it's trained?
But we're not going to find out this turn. Groudon protects itself, trying to set up possibly a safe switch for Leonardo here if this Tapu Fini gets KO'd, as Groudon protects itself from the attack from Ultra Necrozma, and it looks like Tapu Fini is going to set up a light screen here to boost the special defense over on his side of the field as Stakataka uses Trick Room.
Yeah, obviously one of the downsides of lowering your opponent's speed is that they can set up Trick Room and take advantage of it. Still don't know who's faster between Groudon and Ultra Necrozma. Presumably the Groudon is actually still slower even after the -1 speed drop, just because you know, Leonardo did opt to protect the Groudon that last turn. So that might actually work out in his favor because Stakataka here shouldn't be able to knock out the Groudon. Of course, there is the threat of Wide Guard as well. If you Wide Guard here, you block any damage from a potential Precipice Blades. So nice Trick Room setup there, definitely from Nils.
And Stakataka gonna attack here. Hits with a Gyro Ball into that Tapu Fini slot, gets the KO from that range. Stakataka, not a speed Pokemon at all, does so much damage here as Stakataka gets a Beast Boost in defense here as Groudon uses Fire Punch, not going to want to risk hitting into that Wide Guard at all, but that Beast Boost does so much for that Stakataka. Stakataka hangs on, and another Earth Power from Nils' Ultra Necrozma gets a KO on Groudon.
2 knockouts there really quickly, like you mentioned. Stakataka really being able to put quite a show right now, setting up that Trick Room. Obviously, normally Ultra Necrozma under, you know, is a Pokemon that doesn't want to be under Trick Room, but like you mentioned, kind of Leonardo worrying about hitting into a Wide Guard, decides not to Precipice Blades, try to just get some good damage off. And Stakataka being able to be super clutch, hang on there. This is definitely a kind of tough position for Leonardo. Both of the Salamence and the Xerneas are not Pokemon that really want to deal with Stakataka at all. Could maybe knock it out with an attack from either, but Stakataka being the fastest Pokemon under Trick Room right now will most certainly get a big attack off.
Yeah, so Salamence and Xerneas are speed Pokemon, will be moving way after that Stakataka under this Trick Room. Again, it depends on how the Pokemon are trained, but Necrozma should be underspeeding Salamence and Xerneas now, thanks to the Icy Wind from earlier, as Salamence Mega Evolves here, getting that Aerolate ability to boost its flying type attacks. This is going to be pretty big as Stakataka Gravity going to make sure that that Salamence can't stay afloat, as well as make attacks 100% more accurate. So, alrighty then. Here comes a Photon Geyser from Ultra Necrozma, hits into that Salamence slot, does good damage right there as Xerneas uses Moonblast, lands into that Ultra Necrozma and gets big damage, boosted by that Fairy Aura as well, gets the KO from this range, as now Salamence gets to move, but, you know...
Ooh,
that's an Earthquake!
Yeah.
Alright, this Salamence knows Earthquake activates Stakataka's Sugar Berry, but at that... Oh! I thought that would KO for sure, but no. Thanks to that Beast Boost from earlier, that actually survived.
Who would have thought a 4-time super effective attack Stakataka still hangs on? I mean, obviously his defense is incredible. Shuka Berry reduces that damage output, but man, clutch survival there. To be honest, I don't think Nils really needed it. He obviously went for the gravity, setting up the Groudon in the back, and Precipice Blades most likely was going to be a 2-hit knockout on Xerneas. He probably knows how it's trained, so he was confident about being able to seal up this game. Getting that damage off against Salamence ensures that it will fit into a Precipice Blades. Obviously now even easier for Nils, just click Gyro Ball and Precipice Blades. But to be honest, yeah, I think as soon as the gravity went up and because the Ultra Necrozma was slowed by the Icy Wind, Nils got a lot off, and that Trick Room setup was incredible by him.
Yeah, and again, that play from turns go determining the rest of the game here, so that's very important to think about, you know, how your setup is actually going to impact future turns, not just the couple turns. You know, you got to think each turn is so important.
Yep.
And I say that so many times as Xerneas protects itself, possibly trying to stall out this Trick Room, which is Leo's out here, as Salamence also uses Protect here. Again, got to stall out this Trick Room. needs to be able to get out safely in order to try to have a chance at winning.
Yeah, I just, like you said, it's pretty much the only chance. You gotta pretty much stall all the turns of Trick Room, and even then, I think Groudon might still be able to clutch it out. But yeah, you pretty much have to just constantly double protect with everything and hope that eventually Trick Room expires. But I don't know. I think Nils played this game really, really well, and despite the Z move not knocking out the Tapu Fini, he got Stack Attack out in the perfect position.
Xerneas gets a double protect here. Salamence, are you gonna be able to do it too? Oh, get the double protect there.
Okay, well, that makes this game a lot more interesting. Obviously, the odds of that are quite slim, but of course, there is the potential wide guard still from the Stack Attack up there, as I believe Trick Room actually will expire here. So, I mean, Leonardo going for his outs. Now the question is, you still have to worry about something like wide guard. You can't let Stack Attack set up a Trick Room, so you need one thing to certainly knock that slot out. Nils should probably wide guard still to be safe, but for Leonardo, definitely click maybe Moonblast onto one and then double edge onto the other. The thing is, I'm not sure even 2 attacks will be able to knock out the Groudon, especially because Salamence is going to be faster than the Xerneas. If it was like single target Hyper Voice against Groudon, that could be absolutely huge. But instead, Salamence will get the attack off first, so it's if you Hyper Voice, for example, the damage will be reduced, and you have to worry about something like wide guard. So I think Leonardo should probably just go for these single target attacks here, unless he really makes a hard read saying Nils is not going to wide guard here.
And it looks like,
yeah.
Yep, Stack Attack does use wide guard just to prevent getting hit with 2 spread moves here, as Salamence uses double edge straight up into that Groudon, and that is a bulky Groudon doing about 40%. Salamence takes a lot of damage back as Xerneas uses Moonblast, targets down that Stack Attack just to get the KO, checking the option of possibly Nils going for a Trick Room there, while also bypassing that wide guard. So now Groudon uses Precious Blades, connects with both Pokemon. Salamence is KO'd. How much damage does this do to that Xerneas? But again, that Moonblast from Xerneas not very effective against Primal Groudon.
Yeah, I think Leonardo's out here is to protect this turn, try to stall out the gravity maybe, and then hope for a Precipice Blades miss. If Nils' Groudon, of course, is at Fire Punch. Fire Punch might be able to just get the knockout by itself anyway, but I think Leonardo doing everything he could in his power. Like, he needed to go for the double protect, maybe hope for a critical hit, hope for a miss. Yeah, he is going to go for the protect here to stall out the gravity.
Yep, Xerneas protects itself. Groudon uses Precipice Blades again. So now, what does Groudon... Well, does Groudon have Fire Punch, and will that be able to get the KO? Moonblast, I don't know if that Groudon is going to be in 2-hit KO range of a Moonblast.
Yeah, the question is maybe...
How is this Groudon trained, too?
Yeah, exactly. This is definitely going to be really, really close. I think it'd still stay advantage to Nils. And you actually see the Geomancy.
So Leonardo really saying, you got to knock me out, or let's see what happens here.
Right.
So what does Nils have? Fire Punch, is that going to be enough? Oh boy.
This is definitely going to be a close one. The Xerneas looks a lot bulkier than a lot of the Xerneas that we typically see. So let's see whether Nils does have the Fire Punch and whether that will be enough to get the knockout.
Oh yeah, here comes the Fire Punch, but how much damage does it do to the Xerneas?
Is it enough?
It is
yes.
enough. So,
okay.
All right, well, that is good information for Leonardo to know that Groudon does, I mean, usually if a Groudon has Precious Blades, it has Fire Punch.
Yep.
And just exactly how much damage that does. So that kind of gives you some information on, how offensive this Groudon just is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, obviously, that was, Nils was so far ahead again in that game, and it really should have been his game to win. But I think Leonardo making the best plays that he could in the position that he was in. But if anything, he needs to kind of go back to the drawing board and realize, wow, this Trick Room matchup is really, really difficult. So I kind of have to go back to the drawing board and look at how to best defeat Trick Room. Cortana's a Pokemon we mentioned in Team Preview that obviously can give a lot of problems to Stack Attack, especially if it's running that Sacred Sword. So that could be a potential solution. Obviously, it is kind of hard to bring Cortana in when you're going up against Groudon, Incineroar, Salamence, all these kind of strong Pokemon. So if Leonardo decides Cortana isn't the answer, he definitely has to kind of readjust the strategy and play around the Trick Room a little bit better, because if it goes up, it's really, really hard to win it. Especially, in fact, like Leonardo made it even more difficult because he went for the Icy Wind onto the Ultra Necrozma. So he has to be a little bit more careful about when he clicks the Icy Wind button.
Yeah, that extra damage is nice, and also that speed drop is also nice.
Yep.
But the fact that, Nils punished because of that Trick Room, you have to respect that Trick Room now, because Nils is willing to play that mode.
Yeah, so let's see what adjustments Leonardo makes. I really think that Nils brought a strong team composition there. One of the scary things about this kind of team comp is that Salamence a lot of times can carry Tailwind as well, and so you have to worry about two different means of speed control, both Tailwind from Salamence and Trick Room from Stakataka. So I feel like in a best of 3, it's especially scary what if your opponent, instead of going for the Trick Room option, goes for the Tailwind option. That's certainly something that's viable, but I mean, obviously, you always want to bring the Necrozma and the Groudon, and then typically, like Tapu Lele, being able to change the terrain means the damage output is so much stronger, and Stack Attack, obviously being such a strong Trick Room option, definitely very, very powerful here. But yeah, for the big question I have is, does Leonardo bring the Kartana? I certainly think it could do a lot of work, but I think one of the reasons why he might be a little bit hesitant about bringing it is because the Tapu Lele on these teams are typically Choice Scarfed as well, so that's another Pokemon that could just potentially one-shot you. So a lot of major threats here. If not, he's going to need a better strategy to deal with the Trick Room, and I'm not quite sure I see it, honestly, because, I mean, maybe the best way... First of all, you can't let Stack Attack get a defense boost. That was really big. You have to kind of chip away at a bit. Maybe Salamence can put on some pressure, get a quick Earthquake off, but the thing is, Wide Guard from Stack Attack makes it so much more difficult to knock it out.
And here we go. Both players now ready. Leonardo trying to force game 3 versus Nils, as Nils leads with Stakataka and Dawn Wings Necrozma over on Leonardo's side, Tapu Fini and Groudon.
So, kind of a repeat, I think, of what we saw in that last game.
You have to respect the wide guard now, though.
Yep.
You know it's coming.
Yeah, that's the thing. Now, at least you have some knowledge that your opponent's carrying it, so maybe instead of going for Precious Blades, you just go for a quick Fire Punch onto the Stakataka. We saw... I believe we saw actually all of Stakataka's moves in that last game as well. You know it doesn't have Protect because it's running Gyro Ball, Gravity, Trick Room, and Wide Guard. So that at least makes your decision making a little bit easier. That being said, once again, part of Leonardo's downfall that last game was just going for an Icy Wind into the Necrozma. The Necrozma actually took advantage of that. Also, a big Earth Power can potentially go off into Groudon again, so maybe this time around, Leonardo wants to consider protecting the Groudon instead of just taking a quick Earth Power.
Yep, and Necrozma is Ultra Bursting right away. Gonna change its typing. Go ahead. Gets that Dragon typing with that Psychic typing now. So Necrozma uses Moon Geist Beam, hitting into that Tapu Fini slot, just trying to get some damage out on the field as Nature's Madness. Stack Attack dodges that Nature's Madness as Groudon uses Fire Punch, hits into that Stack Attack slot. So really just trying to knock out that Stack Attacker right away with a critical hit as Stack Attack uses Gyro Ball. Gyro Ball hits into that Tapu Fini slot, hangs on as Tapu Fini munches away on its Citrus Berry.
Wow, obviously a lot of stuff going on there. Unfortunate Nature's Madness miss. Based on the damage output that Fire Punch did, probably wouldn't have gotten the knockout anyway. So getting a critical hit to, I would say, not make up for the miss, but at least get a little bit more than...
a full, I mean...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Nils on that first turn, expecting the Protect on Groudon. That's one of the plays that I was mentioning I thought Leonardo might consider doing. He actually makes a nice read. Doesn't expect Nils to just go straight for the Earth Power again, and goes for a big Fire Punch against that Stack Attack. So I like the approach a lot more this time, especially because had the Nature's Madness connect, the Stack Attack most definitely would be in Fire Punch KO range. It's still pretty close, but this time around, Groudon going for the Protect.
Groudon protects itself, not going to want to get hit with an Earth Power as Stack Attack uses Wide Guard again, expecting blocking it from a possible Icy Wind, as well as Earth Power from Necrozma lands into that Groudon slot that is protecting, and Tapu Fini uses Light Screen here, going to bolster that special defense on Leonardo's side. Yeah, I like the way that Leonardo's definitely played this early game, making kind of aggressive read on the first turn, but paying off, expecting Nils not to just go for the same attack. And this time around, getting a Light Screen, which means that Earth Power might actually not even two-hit KO the Groudon. So definitely in a better position than he was that last time around. He knows that the Stack Attack does not have a means of recovery. He knows that it doesn't have Protect, so I really like the approach that he's brought this time around. He said, you know what, I had the right Pokemon that last game, I just need to play better with it. Nils, once again, going for this Tapu Lele play. I wonder if the Z move under Psychic Terrain is enough to knock out Groudon under Light Screen. I don't think it is, but we'd have to see. Yeah, and here we go. Tapu Lele takes the field as Necrozma activates that Z move again, using Light that burns the sky. This is going to be good damage, but thanks to that Tapu Fini Light Screen, that is going to mitigate the amount of damage that Leonardo's team will take. Yeah, you might also just target the Tapu Fini here to get the guaranteed knockout on it, but it feels like both choices are certainly viable. So let's see where this goes. Yep, and here comes this wonderful animation about the light burning the sky. All right, who will it target? Will it be that Groudon? looks like it's going to trigger that Groudon. So this is going to be some good damage. Groudon not that specially bulky, but again, bolstered by that light screen over on Leonardo's side, thanks to that Tapu Fini. Some big damage being dealt here. Groudon hangs on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with just 29 hit points. Again, boosted by that Psychic Terrain as well, as Tapu Fini uses Icy Wind, slowing things down just a little bit. So that really mitigates that Choice Scarf on Tapu Lele if it is that traditional Tapu Lele that we see on these teams.
Yeah. If it is Choice Scarf, though, that Lele and the Necrozma probably will still just be faster than the Tapu Fini. And
here comes a Fire Punch, though. Fire Punch from Groudon hits in that Tapu Lele slot, just gets the KO immediately. So some things are playing out almost the exact same as Game 1, but again, this might be an opportunity for Stack Attack to just come right back out and set up a Trick Room.
Yeah, there's really no way to deny the Trick Room. I mean, yeah, the thing is that the Necrozma is faster than the Groudon still after the Icy Wind, so you can't just like protect an Icy Wind because then Stack Attack just clicks Trick Room right now. I think like the safe play for Nils is to just go for the same thing that he did last time and click Trick Room and go for a safe Photon Geyser onto Groudon. So yeah, I like how Leonardo definitely has played this game so far, but Nils, his goal is to basically set up for the Groudon in the back. Gravity with Precipice Blades can just do so much damage, almost 2-hit KO everything on Leonardo's end. So I think for Leonardo, he's going to try. Ideally, if you could get a knockout, that would be great, because then the Groudon comes out, and at least the Salamence can intimidate the Groudon.
And Tapu Fini retreats, so Leonardo trying to make sure that the exact same thing in Game 1 does not happen here. Changing things up as to what happens as Xerneas takes the field here. Instead of allowing Tapu Fini to get knocked out, Groudon protects itself. Again, just Leonardo trying to set up good board position here as Stack Attack looks like it will be setting up Trick Room this turn as the Earth Power lands in that Groudon slot. And here comes the Trick Room.
There is the Trick Room. Stack Attack still at half its health. Yeah, it did take a lot of damage from that critical hit Fire Punch, but it still definitely will be able to take a Fairy type attack from the Xerneas, and of course the Salamence Earthquake also won't knock it out with the Shuka Berry, especially if it gets a defense boost. So I don't think a Gyro Ball right now will knock out Groudon, so I mean, one play you could make is just go for something like Wide Guard, and Necrozma can maybe get a Photon Geyser off. I like the switch on Leonardo's end. He's at least putting a little bit more offensive pressure right now. Nils also might want to set up the Gravity, of course, to potentially set up the Groudon in the back.
Xerneas actually switches out this turn. Salamence takes the field. That is going to be a pretty big Intimidate on that Stack Attack. Will mitigate the amount of damage that Stack Attack can do to the Xerneas, barring a Nils switch right here. So Stack Attack uses Gyro Ball, lands into that. It actually goes for the Groudon here, just trying to get the kill. Oh! Groudon hangs on with just 1 hit point. And Groudon gets to go for the Precipice Blades, still underspeeding that Ultra Necrozma here. And this is going to be a big Precipice Blades. Stack Attack has not gone a Beast Boost yet, gets the KO. Necrozma gets damaged heavily.
No Gravity this time around as well, which means that you can't just click Precipice Blades if you're a Nils. So, wow, big survival there with just 1 HP. Let's see where the Photon Geyser is going into. Gonna go into the Salamence. Yeah, this is definitely still anyone's game, especially because now Nils can bring out his Groudon. That will obviously be able to just get the knockout onto Leonardo's Groudon, and with Trick Room still being up, Necrozma puts on so much pressure with Photon Geyser against the opposing Salamence. So, big survival there, though. I think it would have been kind of difficult for Leonardo to claw out of this one had the Stack Attack gotten the knockout on the Groudon, so really nice use of that Intimidate. Being able to survive with 1 HP, so clutch there.
Yeah, so, you know, I thought that it was really meant for preserving that Xerneas for later on, but it actually comes in handy right away with that Groudon survival. Groudon on Nils' side takes field, primarily reverts here, and now it's going to come down to Nils' last 2 Pokemon versus Leo's entire team.
Yeah.
So what a change of pace here, but Trick Room is still up.
Yep.
So that's gonna be pretty tough.
Yeah, he definitely has to maneuver out of this properly. A combination of, you know, doing some protects, switch outs. Depending on the Salamence moveset, for example, if it has Hyper Voice, that would be really clutch for it. So you kind of conserve that, kind of bring it out, and get a big Hyper Voice off right now. But I think with multiple turns of Trick Room left, he does have to still play this well. Groudon, you have to make an important decision as well. Do you go for a Precipice Blades, which is a little bit more consistent in terms of covering your options, but is also riskier because it can miss, or do you just go for a Fire Punch?
As Groudon protects himself, just 1 HP, just hanging on to not getting KO'd, as Salamence also protects as well. Gonna stall out the, well, just trying to see where Nils is gonna go here.
Oh!
But Nils punishes that double protector right there with a Swords Dance, trying to set up, so Nils just trying everything he has in order to come back here, as Salamence protects itself. from Ultra Necrozma's attack, and there goes the light screen over on Leonardo's side.
Yeah,
that's
obviously,
what the double protect was for, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, kind of risky sword stance there, but I like it a lot because Groudon is pretty much always going to protect in front of you there. So nice play by Nils. I don't think it really changes too much, but it does mean that a Precipice Blades could potentially just knock out the Tapu Fini or the Xerneas. Tapu Fini, of course, already heavily damaged, so just the Xerneas. So now's the decision for Nils. Do you click Precipice Blades? And yeah, I think the Salmon switch out on Leonardo's end is good because you want to conserve it for the late game, but might just see 2 knockouts here. That being said, with the Misty Terrain coming up over the Psychic Terrain, maybe a Photon Geyser. A Tapu Fini can maybe survive a Photon Geyser.
As Groudon, the enemy Groudon, so Nils Groudon goes for Precipice Blades here, gets a big KO on Groudon and Tapu Fini, so now it's going to come down to Leo's, Xerneas, and Salamence, but again, that double protect from earlier actually now sets up a possibility for Leonardo to stall out that Trick Room.
Yeah, now you can just bring in the Salamence and the Xerneas, protect with both of them. You've gotten the Icy Wind speed drop onto the Necrozma, and then you can just click any combination of attacks. I mean, if you have Hyper Voice, that's probably the best one, but you can even go for like Double Edge into the Necrozma and maybe something like Geomancy. So the Sword Stance actually being kind of pivotal though because Salamence is so low. I actually kind of take back what I said earlier. You do have to worry about where the Groudon target is going to be because even something like a Double Edge and a Moonblast might not knock out the Groudon, and Groudon's still at +1 attack with the Sun Up, which means of course it can get a really powerful Fire Punch off. That being said, I mean, I think this turn you most certainly double protect, and then the following turn, it's a big question of do you predict the Necrozma to protect or not?
Also, you have to respect the Sword Stance, so if you double protect,
yeah.
Nils could easily just set up in the face of Leonardo's double protect here, so Leonardo has to decide here, double protect to guarantee the end of Trick Room and hope that Nils doesn't see the Sword Stance play, or it's tough because
yeah, it really is.
Yeah, because you can easily get punished here if you just want to stall the Trick Room.
Yep.
And it looks like Salamence Mega Evolves here. Going to get that air elate ability and also a nice speed boost and yeah, boosting that double edge.
Let's see. There's
looks like Xerneas protects here, so Salamence is actually going to go on the offensive here actually.
Well, no, Trick Room.
Oh yeah, yep. Yeah. So Salamence uses protect here, so that's a double protect. Does Nils punish with a Sword Stance? Yep, there it is.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's huge, right? Because I think that means a Fire Punch will be able to knock out the Xerneas as well, so you don't have to risk potential misses. Like you said, you called out the risk of another Sword Stance, and Nils goes for it. Okay, this is definitely going to be really interesting now. First question I have, is there a Hyper Voice on the Salamence? Because if there is, then you can just click Hyper Voice and maybe Moonblast into Groudon. That being said, I don't even know how much that would do, and a Groudon will be able to one-hit KO either the Salamence or the Xerneas right now. Maybe you double-edge Moonblast the Groudon, hope for a critical hit on one of those two, but then you leave Necrozma for a free attack. And
you cannot leave Necrozma for a free attack.
So that's the thing, right? Do you predict the Necrozma to go for a Protect right now? There's the Protect from Necrozma. Did Leonardo call this?
So now Necrozma protects itself. Where does Leo go with his attacks? Looks like Salamence gonna use double edge, hits into that Groudon, big damage, but Salamence hangs on from that recoil as Xerneas uses Dazzling Gleam, hits into that Necrozma and gets some chip onto that Groudon. So now what does Groudon do here? With 3 stages of increased attack from 2 Sword Stances, here comes a Fire Punch from that Groudon and hits into that Xerneas actually. How much damage does it do? Xerneas gets KO'd though. Wow. So does Salamence have Hyper Voice now?
Surely it doesn't, right? If it did, you must have gone for it there.
You would have used it there, yeah, instead of that double edge, so.
But maybe he was keeping it secret this entire time. If he has Hyper Voice, he's got a chance of winning this. If not, the game most certainly is over. And let's see. Oh no, the Earthquake.
Just going to go for an Earthquake instead.
Is that enough?
Hits Groudon, hits Necrozma. How much damage is it going to do here? Connects on both. Necrozma hangs on and Groudon hangs on as well.
Earthquake just really, you know, I think Salamence is a strong Pokemon, but Earthquake doesn't take obviously advantage of either of its types, and it's great for something like the Stack Attack. Even in this matchup, though, not so great because Stack Attack obviously did have the Shuka Berry. So.